Particular human representation. That's Grandpa. Generic human figure. Doll. Glued together. Oh my god. A tangible symbol of intention and desire. She put Grandpa in the cage, assuming that was part of the ritual. She was not clear on how it worked. Let's play Growing My Grandpa. Hello and welcome to Hulu New Plays Short and Horror Games. Today I'm going to play a new game by Yames. Yames! So this game has been in development for quite a while, but I think it's because Yames is trying out a lot of new things, and I can't wait to play this. Alright, Yames Secret Games number 2, Growing My Grandpa. Yeah, I'm part of his Patreon club, I guess, supporters club, so I received this a little bit ahead of time. But I think if all goes well, I will upload it just a day before it is actually available. So please read. This game is designed to be played with a mouse. The input required of you is based around clicking the mouse buttons. The right mouse button will change the cursor's image and function. Only when pointing, indicated by the extended index finger, can you, the player, interact with certain menu buttons and prompts. Please click below in the pointing mode to continue. Ah, so this is like, hey, oh, and this is pointing. Okay, cool. The second cursor mode is indicated by the cursor's image featuring a hand extending all fingers. Blop. This mode concerns interacting with objects inside the world, mainly picking up an object and moving it into another position. To continue, please pick up the piece of trash on the right and place it in the trash can on the left. Remember, the right mouse button will change the cursor's mode, but when holding something, the mode cannot be changed until the cursor is not holding something. Ah, there we go. That's it. There will be many situations in Growing My Grandpa that will require you to pick things up, place things, grab things, or get things. Don't be afraid to experiment and keep an open mind about using your hand. Please click the button below to continue. Remember, menu buttons must be clicked in the pointer mode. Blop, bloop. In order to expedite the cleaning process, you can use digits 1, 2, and 3 on your keyboard to reposition the trash can below. Okay. Try moving the can to the right of the screen on your keyboard in order to continue. Well done. Please click the continue button to move on, and please remember menu buttons must be clicked in the pointer mode. A variety of video options can be changed at any time through the use of the function keys F3, F4, and F5. F3, shader effects? Okay. Oh yeah, so that's for the usual Yames look is always a little bit off in a good way. So let's make it low. Okay. Press 4 to cycle through display resolution options. Yeah, that's good because now I have the full screen. Press 5 to change cursor types. Oop. There are 3 cursor color schemes available plus 3 left-handed variants of each color scheme. By default, Growing My Grandpa's display is scaled up by a factor of 2 and the shader is set at low. Alright, configuration options overlay. That's it. Hovering over the small question mark in the top right provides an overlay related to available configuration options. Try hovering over it. This will be available at all times during the game. Cool. Cool. Blop. Thus ends the tutorial. I hope you enjoy entry 2 in Yames Secret Games, Growing My Grandpa. Infinite thanks to my patrons for believing in me and my work. I totally do. I'm like the cult of Yames. I'm in it. It's a horrible cult, like full of terrors, but I love it. Week 1. Whew. I excused Adrian during music class today and spoke with her about her recent string of demerits. It was our first time meeting outside of our quarterly evaluations, and I believe it went well. I can certainly understand Mrs. Richardson's classroom observations concerning Adrian's emotional state. Oh, look, the little mouse! Blop! She was, of course, intensely shy when we first met. As I understand it, she is similarly withdrawn in her classroom activities and only speaks or acts when she absolutely must. Some things she simply will not do. Instead of participating in mandatory group activities, she will sit alone and accept that she will receive a demerit. So a demerit is like a bad grade or like a... Before the meeting, I read Mrs. Richardson's parent-teacher report, which allowed me to estimate some about Adrian's home life. The parents are well educated and come from a prestigious background, but they lack time to properly nurture Adrian. She is often alone, and when she is not, the parents seem to not understand the importance of warmth and affirmation when dealing with someone so young. Having two parents of this reserved and icy temperament exacts an inhibition in a child. The child's imagination is subdued, but only ostensibly, for it eventually finds its way into regular life. I surmised that I would be able to reach out to Adrian by way of make-believe. That's her? I'm scared of her. How are you liking your new house? You've told me you used to live close by, but it still can be a big adjustment. A new room, a new school. The basement, I like that. The basement? Yeah, well, there's a lot of cool stuff. Mom and Dad sent me down there. Your mom and dad made you go? Yeah, but there's lots of cool stuff. Well, that's not why they sent me down there, though. Why did they send you down there? Fighting. They were fighting, shouting. I came in to help and they shouted at me. They said, go clean up downstairs, so I went. That sounds tough. Do they fight a lot? No, well, It's alright, Adrian. Maybe you can tell me more about the basement instead. Okay, well, it was weird at first, the stuff down there, but cool. I found something living, sort of. Ooh. That's very interesting, Adrian. Please tell me more. By indulging her in her fantasies and stories, I was to glean more of an understanding of Adrian's anxiety surrounding her home and parents. The symbols of Adrian's stories seem to carry their own traumatic weight, and her exploration of the basement may very well be a vehicle for the conveyance of her anxiety. Whatever might come of our next meeting, whether she will engage in similar make-believe, I will set down her story here. Adrian's story begins with her delving into the basement with a trash receptacle and the goal of cleaning up. She discovered one of the walls was covered in plastic bags. She went to investigate, intent on tearing away whatever they covered. Oh, maybe like this? Ah, there we go. Oh, ew! What, ew. Okay. I don't know, what is this? Is this just yarn? Or is this something that looks gross? It looks like wormy. Upon removing the plastic trash bags from the wall, she noticed their interior lining was covered in glass. What? Like a window, I offered. No, she said. Like a mirror. Ooh. Reflecting inward towards the animal they covered. I gently asked her what animal exactly this was. Here's where the material reality of the story took a turn for the explicitly fantastic and imaginary. Upon her discovery of it at her gaze, it grew or extended, its shaggy hair itself, hair like fur, like a dog, I offered. No, she said. Not the fur of a dog, nor the hair on her head. It grew out towards her, the animal's hair, reaching out. It was hard, standing almost straight, like the hair on a brush. A bristle, I offered. Yes, she said. She was very afraid at first, but then very curious. I asked her what else was in the room. More things hidden away, she said. Things of Grandpa's as well. First she found a hidden passage under the stairs. Inside were strange dolls, magic objects, naked, faceless figures. I heard these cryptic utterances and merely nodded. In order to keep the game of make-believe going, I only pressed for details where I thought necessary. The faceless dolls could be a simple metaphor for the anonymity she feels in her own home. The hidden passage, I'm unsure of what to make of that. The revealing of the concealed seems to be thematic in her fantasy. The door under the stairs is but one example. No. Oh, cool. Let's look. Okay. Ah, trash pile. What's on the trash pile? Nothing? Like, this looks like something, doesn't it? No, okay. What's this? Oh! Ah! Once she removed the panel and found the magical hidden passage, she was very specific about what she took. She found a magic book, a magic doll, a photo of her late grandpa, and magic glue. Take doll. Ew. A slouching doll. Its material is rough and coarse. Continue. Search closet. Blap. Blap. Ooh. Ooh. Papers crudely bound together to form a book. Eurasian steppe shamanism and fusiform gyrus, an interdisciplinary study in sympathetic magic, a dissertation, Jacob Hart. Read now. The impetus of this research was the recognition of a particular pattern in fragments of documents relating to magic and magical religious practices. Sorry, not gonna burping into the mic. Numerous sources were drawn from commentaries on laws relating to the banning of sorcery and necromancy, compilations of folk charms relating to the love spells, hagiographs of saints and their encounters with devils. The list spans many centuries and a great distance, from the Levant to the Khazar Khaganate to the border of the modern nation-states of Russia and Kazakhstan today. From this paper trail arose a consistent account about a certain form of magic relating to the binding of demons to a sorcerer's will. A demon called the Heaven of Needles, or the Angel of Needles, that's what's in my basement, was known to be kept best by shamanic keepers on wards or wards who suffer from face blindness, prosopagnosia, whether by birth or through development causes like a stroke or head injury. Yeah, so that's the thing that can happen, that people suddenly they can't differentiate faces anymore. So it's not like they don't see the faces, but they can't recognize them anymore. So, and I think, when you're born with it, you can adapt, I think, a lot more easily than if suddenly, like, everyone looks like a stranger, but then you hear the voice, and it's like your mom. That must be so weird. Okay. It was known to be extremely effective but terribly dangerous, so much so that it became outlawed several times and was generally a popular scapegoat relating to unexpected death. Sorry, sometimes I don't know what's going on today, but my pronunciation at times is a bit weird. Also, so Yames' universe is basically, just imagine like a Lovecraftian universe, but distinctly Yames. So in his universe, usually there's a weird combination of religion, science, in this cosmic horror sense, that those things exist. They're almost always horrible. Yeah, but they're basically part of reality. This nexus of magical religious meaning-making sorcery regarding human-related desires and the history and science of neurological disorders related to the fusiform gyrus is where the subject of this dissertation will reside. I will outline further and then analyze the historical sources I mentioned previously. Then I will go into the neurology of mystic and magical religious experiences. After that, I will detail my ongoing correspondence with the resident of the Ural mountain region who is an expert folklorist and keeper of traditions he claims have been passed down through his extended family for generations. Alright! Oh, we got the glue! Blup! All-purpose glue. Bop, bop. Oh, I don't even need to hold it. Oh, that's so nice. Blop, bleep, bloop, blop. Clean it all up. Oh! That looks... a photo of your late grandfather. Oh, he looks nice. Mr. Rat? Oh. Read now. Mr. PhD. On the reverse side of the photograph, there's more text. Good luck on your trip to the Urals. Stay warm. Oh, that was his. So he was the one researching this. Alright. So he brought this into the cellar. All clean. This space will not be dirty again until next week. Okay. I interrupted to ask what she did with these magical, serious materials. Grow grandpa, she explained plainly, and then without missing a beat, she continued on with her story. Feeling this was a potent symbol, I stopped her again to ask what she meant. Somewhat puzzled, I did not understand immediately, she explained slowly. Grandpa lives in the cage in the other room. The cage behind the door. They grew people in the cage. So in the other room, There. A hastily written note. I've repeatedly called your homes to no avail, and so I am forced to leave this here for you all. I found William sitting in the corner of the enclosure area, seeming severely concussed. Whiskers was gone. Oh no, in none of its usual hiding places. It's always the cats. And the well as well. But different, like the cat lived, so to say. I immediately suspected the worst. The project thus must be suspended for now. I'm leaving up the usual mirrored coverings we used to keep the anthropoetic void sealed. Ooh, so it's a void, but it's like it has some sort of form. So anthropoetic would seem that it has a somewhat human form, but that needle, that angel of needles or whatever, of thorns, that doesn't really look like a human. So maybe we have to grow to turn it into human. I've done my best to look up everything on such short notice. It is a hasty fix, but it will require some time to find a more permanent remedy. I'm honestly hoping you do not find this note, as I intend to lock the house down too. I intend to race after you to retrieve your lockbox keys. Do not worry about William's key. It and the rest of his equipment is almost certainly deep within Whiskers now. I pray you do not enter this room. No matter how it may appear, William cannot be helped and is only being kept alive as a means of continuing predation on the rest of us. So they need to keep William, the grandpa, alive, or whatever William is now, so the angel of thorns will not kill everyone else. I will say once again, no matter what state you may encounter William in, he cannot be helped. I have compassion for the young man. Oh, young man. Oh my god, Grandpa just kidnapped someone? But I found on his person several photos of his late sister, which would imply certain risks he knew he was taking. Our extant research materials have now become possible liabilities, either criminal or professional in nature, so I have stashed them away. I believe I'll let you all know how I might do this if we were ever to experience an event such as this. There's a small typo, Yames. Nothing bad, but, you know, because also I'm kind of playing a beta version, because I got it a few days ahead. I hope you all remember what I told you. So long then. So, you know, if I say this is not to, like, criticize it. This is more like to give Yames a little bit of a... Okay. A note on experiment 1. Yeah, I will read all. Like, for the sake of university policy and the health of any future career you hope to have, you will abide by the non-disclosure contract you have signed. Do not break the anthropoetic vacuum without my prior consultation and approval. Any anthropoetic forms brought into the enclosure area must not be left unattended. When not in dormancy, the sample will attempt to take anthropoid shells. Please see shell notes for more on that. Oh, no. No, shit. No! Oh, shit. Oh. Beyond the door in the room, the cage was hidden, concealed in another cloak of inward-facing mirrors. Where can I get the notes? A hidden cage lined with mirrors. It is strange, almost poetic, the elaborate fantasy of self-reflection, concealment, captivity. Oh, this is tape. I get it now. At the cage, she finally cast her spell. But it was confusing, she confided at first. She took the magic doll, the magic glue, and the photo of her grandpa. And she combined them, and she wished very hard. I can only assume in this fantasy that next her wish would come true. In what child's story would it not? Particular human representation. That's Grandpa. Generic human figure. Doll. Glued together. Oh my god. A tangible symbol of intention and desire. She put Grandpa in the cage, assuming that was part of the ritual. She was not clear on how it worked. What precise instructions she could glean from her grandfather's magic book was complicated by her reading comprehension. She wished with all her heart, and then she told me she waited a while for something, anything to happen. And after that time, she began to cry. I cried really hard, she said. I wanted Grandpa to be back. I wanted my parents to stop being so mean. And it hurt me. It hurt me wish for Grandpa to come back, for my parents to be different. I could feel it through the walls, and it felt me through the air. I asked her what exactly she meant. She could only repeat what she said. By this time lunch was almost over. I said goodbye to Adrian, and she left to rejoin her class. I was left to consider a conversation. I believe the storytelling strategy I have employed was not unfruitful, but I must probe deeper if I can. Although I can be sure if nothing I interpret the impressions I get may begin to help me get an idea of the right questions to ask. Knowledge you acquired this week has given you access to certain topics or keywords you can discuss with Grandpa. Wish. Consider discussing this when Grandpa emerges. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't read all the notes. You have also gained the following keyword. Shell. That's so cool. Okay, I hope I can read the rest. I met again with Adrian in order to address her emotional outbursts in the past few weeks. It is our second time meeting, and while it is standard practice to have multiple sessions with a troubled student, as I assemble a report for the counseling department, I could not help but think, as we sat down in my office, that Adrian already seemed to show a remarkable change in self-esteem and confidence, and perhaps my and Mrs. Richardson's estimation of her as emotionally disturbed was erroneous. The paralyzing shyness and withdrawn attitude Adrian possessed last week was not entirely diminished, but she seemed to hold herself differently this week. However, this only lasted as long as our conversation pertained to initial introductory pleasantries. Jesus. When I began once again asking about her parents, her feelings regarding her new school and her new home, she quickly lost what new confidence she had gathered up and withdrew again into herself. So once again, I partook in some collaborative make-believe, but this time I was aided by the fact that I had managed to do some research into Adrian's grandfather, and I had some insight into what she might actually be finding in the basement. Now, this may be overstepping my bounds some as a school counseling caseworker, but this was all in the service of making Adrian comfortable and happy in this learning environment. In any case, I was able to dig up information regarding the grandfather by inquiring at the university in town. Not that I make it a habit of sleuthing, but I had a suspicion the grandfather was a professor there, or at least some sort of researcher, due to the fact that the newly constructed laboratory on the campus I drive by every day bears his name in memorial. Oh well, what a smarty-ass. He was some sort of anthropologist, or linguist, or neuroscientist. I did not have to dig that deep before the scope of his work became dizzying, and I ran up against the limits of my undergraduate education. But back to the make-believe. It's cool, the word choice, dizzying. It's like he can't really fathom what the grandfather dealt with. What is your grandpa like? Is he a smart man? Not anymore, but I'm teaching him. So he's grown a good deal then? You have been feeding him well? Yeah, he's getting bigger, but he has a lot of room in his cage. He's still behind the bars? Yeah, well, he might be able to climb out eventually. There's this vent in the ceiling. Well, perhaps if he climbs out, I could meet him someday. You don't wanna, believe me. Yeah, maybe, but he's not ready to leave. He can't take care of himself. I have to feed him, pick up after him. Oh, you store the food in your lunchbox? That's nice of you to share. He can almost talk. You cannot speak with him? He doesn't. He doesn't have a mouth, sort of. But how do you feed him? He has a mouth on the outside, on his shell, or this stuff that is his skin. Ooh! I'm a little confused. Maybe you can go through a typical day with your grandpa? Okay. I asked her to explain how exactly she goes about growing her grandpa, and Adrian began another tale. According to Adrian, in the week that had passed, much had changed in the basement. It's gone! Examine. The hairy thing that was here before is gone. Is it in Grandpa now? Your lunchbox is currently empty. Seek out food for Grandpa. Oh, cool. Okay. I want to look at those. Ritual behavior with the sample trading bargaining will result in dismissal from the project. The precise mechanism of the exchange of symbols and gifts required for a requested desirous yield is not known, and even then, anecdotal accounts of success are legible and in violent death. Ooh. Kind of angry that I forgot the third note. Regarding growth cycles, every time Whiskers regenerates and leaves dormancy, it is to be logged as a new propagation. The sample's bodily existence cannot be illegible, so maybe Whiskers wasn't even a cat. It was one of those things, but not a grandpa thing, but a cat thing. A part cannot be cut from the whole, so there can only be one living propagation. Propagations are to be terminated after 5 weeks. Oop! What happens after 5 weeks? I guess we'll find out. Any further development puts us at risk. Termination procedures will be posted and followed with extreme care. With all of that out of the way, I want to welcome you to the project. I look forward to working with you, Dr. Hart. I think I basically skipped with the third note, the one that's most... Yeah, shit. Let's look at the rest of the room. You should see Grandpa first. Okay, okay. Wait, Grandpa. It was scary at first, she said, the way he moved, the way the doll's skin covered him. I wanted to interject, this somehow seemed inappropriate, but I kept listening. When I look at him, she continued, when I think about him, he grows and moves. It's like he's growing for me. So he's growing bigger now, I asked. Yeah, she said, bigger every day. So the thing is basically the angel of thorns or needles, and it basically needed this, I don't know, emotional desire of the child and the doll. This begins the actual growing part of growing your grandpa. Beneath the doll's burlap skin, the follicles knit together what resembles a proper person, your grandpa. You are in charge of its cognitive development and diet until it is able to sustain itself. Currently, you are observing Grandpa. Please click the arrow back button below for a brief tutorial of your duties as a caretaker. Here we can see a variety of options regarding growing Grandpa. Highlighted in red are objectives related to feeding and teaching Grandpa. Important messages regarding Grandpa's recent activity will also appear here. Feed Grandpa. Acceptable foods eaten, seek out things to feed Grandpa. Teach Grandpa. Words taught. Find vocabulary cards to help Grandpa speak. Explore the basement. You will need to find it food and learning material before you can move on to the next week. Okay. Some foods will make Grandpa happy, others merely content. Some food will make Grandpa disgusted to the point of nausea. Learning material is also scattered throughout the basement. Seek out vocabulary cards intended to help teach English and basic anthropodic concept formation. The options highlighted in red are related to navigating around Grandpa's enclosure. The Go to Grandpa option will let you perform all actions directly related to Grandpa: feeding, teaching, observing. Accessing the study corner will let you go over any documents you pick up as the weeks go by. It's a good idea to learn about the work of the people who last occupied the space. Accessing the kitchen corner will let you search for food in the old refrigerator and prepare food for Grandpa if need be. The help button will replay this tutorial. The save game button will save your current progress. You can only have one save file at a time, so if you have to save data, you will be asked if it is okay to override it. Oh, that's cool, because I think this will be a longer game, so it might be a two-parter. Exiting and relaunching the game will allow you to load your save from the main menu by clicking the continue button. More buttons may or may not appear depending on your development of Grandpa, so watch out for them. Ooh! On final note, take care to explore the basement at your leisure. However, due to the entropic nature of clutter and trash, different weeks may allow you to find things you had not previously discovered. Good luck! Search upper fridge. Lettuce. It looks edible. Grandpa might like this. Okay. Search lower fridge. It looks edible. It's a brown banana. Soft fruit or vegetable. Unappealing item. I don't have... Do I have an unappealing item? No. Okay. So let's go out of this. So we don't yet have enough. Go to Grandpa. Observe. You examine Grandpa, noting its movements, respiration, and general mood. Grandpa seems sort of sluggish and bored. You get the feeling it may be more content and readily cooperative once fed and taught a word or two. Attempt to teach Grandpa. You have no new vocabulary cards. Aww. Attempt to communicate. Okay. Okay, so we need to go... Examine. Trash. What's the bulbous growth? Wait, what? Something appears to be growing from the wall? You take a closer look. Ew. A pulsating sac. The slimy membrane that is its skin seems to contain something. It might be able to be opened with a blade. So we have to find a blade, because I think that will be the unappealing item we have to combine the food with. Oh, wow. What is this? Corroded battery. This isn't really food. Grandpa might eat it, however. Okay. Ooh. Linguistic module. Yes! Hello. Teach Grandpa this word to read the notes of past educators. Yes, cool. Feeling very accomplished. Yeah, I want to do like this week, and then we can continue with the third week in the next episode. I think that will be all clean. Yeah. The darkness of the shadowy corner unnerves you. You cannot explore here without some form of light. Okay. Cabinet. Examine, slouching under the weight of rot and refuse. Blop, bleep, blop, blop. Oh, I love cleaning horror games. Ew, what is that? Blueberries. They look like dead mice. It looks edible. Grandpa might like this. Okay. Like, I would not eat those blueberries. All clean. Nice. Top drawer. Is that a face? Oh no, it's not. Oh, it's faces though. It is, kind of. Ugh. Oh. An account of an acquisition. Read now. Before we began, we had us all cover our faces completely. An earthenware pot was on the inside. As we stole brief glances at it, we could see the interior was inlaid with mirrors. The gave it small pieces of dough, spoiled food, chicken feet, keeping it content. So it's like the mirror is basically, because the trash bag that hid the needle thingy also had those mirrors. It's like a container. It's the it's needed to contain the thing, and now we removed it. So shit. The keeper gestured towards the small bag where the food composted and told us to be careful not to feed it any meat. I asked if the rotting food was enough to sustain it, how it might get nutrients from any of this. The keeper regarded me seriously and said it did not matter what it was fed. The act of feeding itself was what mattered. The act of feeding flesh is another act, however. He then gave me another series of grave warnings regarding not keeping any animal-derived foods near where I might be keeping it. So no meat. Alright, that makes sense, because as an otherworldly horror monster, it will probably like turn into an even worse monster. Ooh! So I need a key. Okay. Trash pile. Examine. Something about the painting looks strange. Search painting. Ha! There you go. A folder full of radiographic images. Okay. Okay. Search trash pile. Who doesn't? Yay. Me and my trash. Just imagine you're a little girl and that's what you're doing. That must be so weird. Ew. What's that? Fiberglass insulation. This isn't really food. Grandpa might eat it, however. Okay. All clean. Nice. Okay. Another. The waste here smells particularly strong. Well, maybe that means we get some really cool thing. Oh! Simple paper doll. This might be useful in the construction of magic symbols. Okay. Man, that music is disturbing, to say the least. I love it. Okay. What is this? I think that's the weird room, right? It's a mannequin. I hope it is. Okay, let's go to the door. Enter. Go to kitchen corner. Prepare food. Got a banana. And fiberglass insulation. Conceal. The insulation is concealed in the browning banana flesh. Okay. Go to study corner. Yes, search file cabinet, look over documents. There, I think the sample's exposure to some of our neuronal activity is unavoidable. However, the speed at which its desirous yield is produced can be dampened by several precautions regarding libidinal and emotional urges. Keep conversation not related to lab work to a minimum. Okay. If you begin to suspect you are developing attachments to your colleagues, contact me as soon as possible. Interesting. Interesting. Hastily written note. Wait. Yeah. I think I read all the ones because I enjoy reading them as they come. Okay. Go to Grandpa. Feed Grandpa. Would you like to view the tutorial before you start? You will not be prompted again. This brief tutorial will go over the basics of feeding Grandpa. Via induction of your unprotected insula, Grandpa simulated the production of toothed animal to mimic a human mouth. It will need to be fed through this in order to properly learn and grow. First, you will need to select an item from the lunchbox. Click on the lunchbox in the bottom right corner. The contents of the lunchbox will be displayed. Nice food and bad food. Select an item from the lunchbox. Doing so will fill your hand with this item. Note that any food can be put back into the lunchbox by clicking on the lunchbox with a full hand. Before Grandpa can be fed, it must judge the food by smell. Hover your hand above Grandpa's olfactory bulbs. If Grandpa is pleased, it will allow you to feed it. Most foods Grandpa will accept, however, getting Grandpa to consume other things requires some culinary deception. When Grandpa is willing to be fed, hover your hand over its mouth and click. Grandpa will then consume the food. Good luck on feeding Grandpa. Feed Grandpa. You approach the small window set in the jail. Oops. If Grandpa is enticed by the smell... Yeah? Okay. Let's start with blueberries. Click on Grandpa's nostrils. Is that it? Where are the nostrils? I don't see the nostrils. Left of its mouth. Oh, there. Grandpa finds this palatable. There you go, Grandpa. The meal appears to have been sufficient. Okay, and one more. Let's try this out. Grandpa's unable to detect the unappealing item. So he's okay with it? Okay, so we got 2. Okay. And we'll keep... Although quickly consumed, the meal seems to be causing some indigestion. And with a sudden urge, Grandpa empties his stomach onto the floor. Oh no, the contents pool together in front of the cage. Oh, Grandpa, I'm so sorry. Let's give you lettuce to... By its neutral reaction, this will sate its hunger. Okay. I'm so sorry, Grandpa. I thought the meal appears to have been sufficient. Okay. You step away from the window set in the bars, and Grandpa silently slides back to its corner. Feeding summary. Okay. I got it. But I'm so sorry that he kind of, like, had to, you know... I only found 1 card. Grandpa recently emptied his stomach. Aw. Go to Grandpa. Teach Grandpa. Hello. Would you like to view the tutorial before you start? Yes. This brief tutorial will go over teaching Grandpa pronunciation and vocalization. The vocabulary word you picked will appear in the top left corner. In the bottom right corner will be a pentagon that is divided up into 8 sections. A section of the pentagon will be highlighted briefly. A notification sound will play and soon another section will be highlighted. You will control a small round icon that sits above the pentagon by using your mouse. The ball is constrained to the limits of the pentagon. The goal is to keep your icon over the highlighted area and move it as the area changes sections around the pentagon. When you hold left click above the correct highlighted area, the icon will start to vibrate along with the simulated vocal cords, and the current letter of your word will begin to turn red. Keep holding over the highlighted section and adjust your icon as it changes place. Soon the letter will become fully red. After every letter becomes red, Grandpa will proudly pronounce the word to you and it will be considered learned. Teaching Grandpa these words will accelerate its cognitive development and lead to further breakthroughs in general intelligence. Wow, okay. Let's see how we'll do this. Deep within Grandpa's strange membranes phonate confidently. Hi! Having completed the lesson, you take a look at the back of the vocabulary module card and the notes there written by administrators of the past. Hello. General pronunciation comments, sloppy articulation. We are already encountering some difficulty as Whisker's subjectivity is so much determined by a diverse and dynamic array of influences. It attempts to mimic the thoughts and desires it passively intercepts, so mine. And these imitations go on to structure the basis of its identity. That's why it's basically maybe the thing even thinks it's Grandpa. Only later in Whisker's growth cycle does it begin to form an identity that are coherent and capable of resembling a sane, rational human being when engaged in conversation. One must imagine how hard it would be to converse with someone who is not yet oriented in one particular way towards who or how they are, because they might have 20 different honest answers to those questions, all of them mixed and muddled together. Because of this, we have started with the basics of conversation, greetings, partings, identifying one another, forming questions, etc., etc. It is fortunate Whisker's current growth, number 19 I believe, has developed a mostly accurate human mouth simulation. Hello was a bit of a challenge in the previous growth as it had failed to develop an adequate organ to act as a human tongue. You step away from the bars and store the module card at the document table. Alright, so we'll need to look at stuff. Yeah. Go to study. Examine educational posters. Or maybe there's one. No? Oh. Ha! There you go. What is this? Disposal. Okay, read now. The researcher will seal off the enclosure bars, ensuring minimal gas leak during later fumigating process, and then retrieve the burned barrel and place it near the enclosure. Oh, they burned them? Allow at least 48 hours of time where the current growth cycle experiences no human-related stimuli. Do not enter the enclosure area nor any part of the basement. Ideally, you will not be on the grounds at all. After 48 hours, 2 researchers will enter the basement wearing their assigned mirror mask, mirror apron, and powered air purifying respirator. Because otherwise it will take in the environment. The researcher will use the vent system to fumigate the enclosure area. Oh, okay. Wait 30 minutes and then use the fan system to ventilate the enclosure. Keep the fans running during steps 3 to 4. We enter the enclosure area wearing your assigned mirror mask and aprons. The organism may or may not be in complete dormancy. If it is not in full dormancy, be assured that its capacity to act against you will be greatly diminished. With your assigned power drills, quickly remove any enclosure bars needed to access the organism. Put them aside for later reinstallation. Put the organism into the burn barrel. Incinerate the organism thoroughly. Wait for any smoke to be properly cleared by the fan system. Turn off the fans. One researcher will retrieve the nucleus from the ash and place it in the mirror box. The other researcher will sift through the ash and place any other substantial remains in the biohazard bin in the room outside of the enclosure area. The bin is locked for safety purposes. The code is 323245. The researchers will fill out a termination form and leave it for Dr. Hart. You've gained the conversation topic, biohazard bin. Okay. Oh, I have file cabinets. Oh my god. Ugh. Oh, that's cashews. Okay. I love how all the food looks disgusting in this game. I love it. There you go. An account of an acquisition. It was said to pass from one family of steppe people to another, but pressed on its ultimate origin, somewhere to the south, coiled in a bowl covered in incantations, buried upside down by a graveyard. So it's like it's being passed on, but still kept alive. The keeper, an elderly man in failing health, was ready to expound on and on about the dangers of the organism, but when I asked more pointed questions about the history of its acquisition, I was given curt responses that had a way of circling back to vague warnings. Interesting. What's that? Nothing. All clean. Okay. Oh, we need a few conversation cards. There we go. Is that one? Yes! Grandpa! Yes! Let's teach him... Well, not his name. His description, I guess. Okay, what's that? Nothing. Okay. And number 3. Blop. Bleep. There you go. You know, this game reminds me... There's a weird musical. It's an indie horror musical. About a man finding a person, like a hand, growing out of their basement. And then he grows it, basically, into a person. And it's like a folk musical, but it has horror elements. And it's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. But it weirdly, I keep thinking about it. Oh wait, is there a hidden floor on this? No, okay. You remove the tape down for yes. Ooh. Clean up procedures. To my colleagues, I don't mean to be overly severe in tone, but Dr. Hart's work is very important and the material we are working with is potentially very dangerous. I will be handing out a copy of this note as a reminder to everyone. I'm not trying to single any particular person out. We all have misconceptions about the nature of this project from time to time. With that out of the way, here are some things to keep in mind. The active growth must be thoroughly terminated via the correct procedures at the very least 4 weeks after dormancy is interrupted. So I interrupted it from its dormancy. It doesn't matter what you've done or haven't done regarding tests or procedures or how much the anthropoetic vacuum has been disrupted. We are not ready to go beyond 4 weeks at this point. A step-by-step guide to termination has been posted by the enclosure wall. Please, 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 please do not place the educational posters over this posting. Do not disrupt the anthropoetic vacuum without Dr. Hart's prior consultation and approval. In case of an emergency where the vacuum is disrupted, put on your equipment and begin the lockdown procedure. Make an extensive note of when and how the breach has occurred. If you find the habitat empty, page Dr. Hart immediately, but do not attempt to speak with anyone else. This thing can get very smart. It can basically, like, look like other people. I'm sure you're all well aware from the stories we heard on our acquisition trip. The greatest caution should be used when dealing with a potential aggressive mimicry scenario. Please seek me out if you have any more questions. William. Holy shit. Each growth from a cycle does not require a shell, but you may find a sample will often try and seize on something somewhat flexible it can grow into, along with any desirous yield it may generate. Or else it will move from one shell to the next as it outgrows them. Ooh, so we need a different shell at some point? In the small amount of time I have spent with it in preparation, I have noticed it tends towards human forms. However, we should keep a tight lid on the anthropoetic seal in order to be cautious before we begin to experiment with exposing it long-term to anthropoid stimuli. Alright, everything's clean. Medical... You slip the radiographic images you found onto the machine's display. Oh. Whoop! Day 19 after dormancy. It's like in the back of the head. Day 0. And the vacuum broken. Terminated at 6 days. Day 14. Terminated at 16 days. 12 days? Yeah, this looks like a proper human. That's kind of super creepy. Super creepy. Okay, let's teach Grandpa a word. Let's see if I can do this. Yes. Hi. Hi. Having completed the lesson, you take a look at the back of the vocabulary module card and the notes there written by administrators of the past. Grandpa. Usual trouble with articulation, voice thin, raspy, possibly underdeveloped larynx. But it would sound good. We have done several sessions of what we are calling familial relation simulation. I and a co-researcher sit in chairs opposite the enclosure. We are wearing the usual mask. Oh, I don't have the mirror mask. That can be a problem. And we begin to act out a scene, mostly through improvisation, that might roughly resemble a kitchen table conversation between an immediate family. Repeated trials would reveal, although our simulated conversation was purposefully vague and unspecific regarding persons and identities, we would only address each other as brother, father, sister, etc. It soon became apparent the encoded information and associations we unconsciously drawn upon when hearing and speaking these words was being picked up on by Whiskers and its psi-type field of reception, interpretation of brain-mind event semantic content. So it's like you watch a theater play, but this being can actually see the innermost associations of the people playing it. So you don't just see the acting, you see every emotion behind it. My co-researcher William noticed this in a simulation where Whiskers was given a role as a sister and he has a brother. I was the father. Whiskers began responding to certain prompts with unusual specificity, Jesus, as well as I should teach me, you know, grow hula, teach hula a word. Grandpa. Okay, as well as a general pattern and timbre of speech that continued with unusual consistency. As soon as the simulation ended and we left the enclosure area, William let me know that Whiskers was almost certainly drawing from encoded memories of his late sister. Whoa! Mapping out exactly what regions and centers of neural activity are intercepted by the psi-type field will take extensive imaging that we do not have at this site. Currently, we only have less precise portable equipment. I'm so sorry about my reading. It's like a lot of text. I'm not a native speaker, but also it's a lot of text. However, our experiences so far are eerily in line with folk knowledge and folk explanations regarding the being's access to desires. And we can begin to infer it has access to certain portions of the limbic system and the ventral temporal cortex. Wow. So we did it! Yay, y'all! Okay, I did everything. I end the week. Yes. Weekly summary. Yeah, I'm so sorry about his upset stomach. I could have just given him the banana. Now I feel really bad about it. Yeah, I shouldn't have fed the fiberglass insulators. Of all things also, you know. Documents. Yeah, a lot. I got a lot. Wow. I have a new conversation. Oh! I can discuss language. Yeah, totally. Oh, okay, so I have to play this first. Mrs. Richards approached me the other day in order to remark on Adrian's development. She noted how much more at ease she appeared when called upon in class or when asked to participate in group exercises. I told her I had seen this change happening as well, and that as much as I would like to take credit for it, I can only guess dimly at what might be reshaping her attitude. Mrs. Richards posited that it was perhaps Adrian's family moving into their grandfather's property that caused the change. It apparently is out in the country, in a wooded area full of wide open space and far from the bustle and noise of the city. The grandfather, Dr. Jacob Hart, had jointly purchased the land with the university he was employed with and began constructing what he was intending to be a satellite campus for a burgeoning psychological anthropology program he had hand in establishing. Only one building ever ended up being constructed after Dr. Hart died in a car accident when driving back from the property one day. Wonder whether that was really an accident. Eerily, almost at the exact same time, a grad student who was assisting Dr. Hart on some sort of project at the property vanished without a trace. The property sat in disuse for years as it was tied up in legal battles between Dr. Hart's next of kin, the university, the vanished grad student's family, and the other students Dr. Hart was working with. Eventually, the case was settled out of court. Only recently did the property fall into the possession of Adrian's mother. Obviously, I was not going to relay this whole tragic story to Adrian, who for all I know believes her grandpa to still be living in the basement of his home. Besides, I thought she might already know all of this. Perhaps the elaborate story she was constructing was her own way of escaping the morbid details of a life, or perhaps lives, cut short by the cruel force of fate and the cynical adults who squabbled in the aftermath. I determined perhaps the storytelling she was and continues to engage in should not be encouraged by me, at least not in the way I went about it before, where I made active inquiries into her strange fantasy of a semi-sentient ball of skin. When I saw Adrian, I did not bring up her grandpa or ask questions about his growth. Adrian could not stop talking about it, however. I had no choice but to weather a bizarre and enthusiastic effusions about her new best friend. Adrian, maybe we can talk about something else. Oops, sorry. I'm not sure I'm following you exactly. I think I accidentally clicked. He's gotten so big. He has so many whiskers that come out, and I can see them move around when I think about him. Oh, that's why they call him Whiskers. Oh my god. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm so happy Grandpa is back. He's so much cooler than Mom and Dad. Once again, for what it's worth, I have put down the story she told me as best as I could. Adrian once again told me about growing her grandpa. So I will stop this. I think this is a great first episode to get a feel for the game, the story, the gameplay. So anyone who wants to play this game themselves, they kind of know how it feels now, how it plays, but they don't get spoiled too much. Personally, I love this. This is so... I mean, it's very in line with Yames' other games, but it feels much more... first of all, it feels much more complex when it comes to the gameplay, but also the story. It is so, because usually Yames is very vague, you know, but has a way of, like, using dialogue and explanations and definitions by basically expanding the world. So you know he has all the details in mind, but is not giving you too much of this. And in this case, you know, it's a lot more writing, but that's because we're dealing with a scientific experiment here through the eyes of a kid. So there's a lot of backstory involved, there's a lot of instructions and handling, but I think the writing is so good that it's more engaging, you know. It is, because I'm currently playing another game, Martha is Dead, where the writing doesn't really catch me. I'm like, okay. And here, you know, I'm really into it because every single document is either helps me play the game properly or gives me more of the backstory and the lore of the overall world, but also of the situation, which is very terrifying. I love the concept. It is so absurd and weird and horrifying, but also very interesting. I think it's a genius idea to have a girl doing all this, you know, because of course she, you know, feeds into this whole thing. So she's not questioning it, and I really love this. I think the gameplay is so much fun. I was worried, you know, reading the instructions and thinking, oh my god, teaching the words, that will be probably total hassle. No, it's not. It is fun. It is like you have to, you know, do it a little bit, and it's a bit of a... It's not a challenge, but it's not super easy as well. But it's fun. and feeding and the cooking and the exploring. So far, I love the whole concept. I can't wait till week 5 to see what will happen then. Because apparently you have to abort the whole project by week 4. So this will be absolutely amazing. So yes, I mean, I didn't expect anything bad with this, but in a way, because with Yames games, you never know what will happen. Because they're so out of the box, and I knew it would be something that is kind of super disturbing and goes under your skin. So it's not like, well, like, it's not jump scares. It's more that the concepts and the visuals and the sounds and everything comes together to make you feel uneasy. And that's what I love about these games, because I'm all about atmosphere. Whatever I play or read or watch, like, atmosphere is one of the most important things when I watch or enjoy horror in general. And I think Yames games usually ooze atmosphere, and this one does as well. Like, I'm so immersed. Like, I'm already developing I know I shouldn't, but I'm already feeling for Grandpa. Like, you know, when Grandpa said Grandpa, I was kind of proud. So I'm like, I'm loving this. I'm loving this so much. So yeah, I will put the link to the game. Well, I can't yet put it, but as soon as the game is online, for everyone else to play, I will put the link to the game in the liner notes, but I will also add the link to Yames' Patreon, so you can, you know, support Yames, but also get games earlier, you know, to take a look, to take a peek, and also to see how he works, because he shares a lot of input and info on how he's developing things, what he does, how his thinking process is, etc. So it's really, really, really neat. So I will put that as well in, so you can follow Yames and support Yames and play the games. Also look at the other, like, all of them. All of them are amazing. I think there's 1 or 2 that are not finished, but they still are so cool. So still play them. Heavily recommended. Yeah, also, thank you so much for watching, going along on this ride and enduring my bad pronunciation. Apparently, I'm also kind of a social experiment. Who would have thought? Also, I would also puke up, you know, insulation. So unless, you know, also, yeah, unless I have to, I will try to prevent feeding Grandpa like shit, garbage. What else? Yeah, if you're new to this channel, which might be because I'm not really, like, super big, you're welcome to join. And I promise you, if you tell me about growing your grandpa in the basement, I will not think that you made this up for some family issues. I will dig deeper into this, because you know what? A lot of people belittle children and always think that they're making things up. But I think very often there's like a kernel of truth in there, and it's always better to really ask details, but also take kids seriously. And I'm not even a mother, you know, and I still know this. So subscribe, I guess, for more parenting tips. Anyways, yeah, let's see you next episode to feed Grandpa, teach Grandpa, and have some conversations. We will totally do that next episode. Can't wait. Yeah, I hope you had a good time. I hope you have a wonderful day, and maybe see you soon. Bye bye bye. This is my self-recorded outro song, so I don't get hit with copyright claims. If you subscribe to a lot of fun tutorials, reviews, and let's plays.